Hi there, dance studio owners, and welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. In this week's live event sneak peek, Clint will be sharing with you his biggest dance studio finance tips to help ensure you run a profitable business while changing the lives of the dancers in it. While you enjoy this podcast, make sure to download our free studio revenue report to help you get clear on your numbers for 2020 and beyond. Grab your free copy at dsoa.com/studio-revenue. That's dsoa.com/studio-revenue. Now, on to today's special episode.
I promised you before that we are going to talk about money. Anyone want to talk about money? Yes. Really? Do you really want to talk about money? Yes. Okay, finance and profitability. Because here's my absolute belief. If you're changing lives, you should be paid for it. Woo! Yes, Angela. Still excited, been in the inner circle 4 years and still screams about money. I love it. You are changing lives. And this is so important, and you will hear me talk a lot about this over our next 3 days. Because if there's one thing I want you to take home with you, is that you should be paid very well for changing people's lives, right? If I look at all of the big companies, the alcohol, the cigarette, the pharmaceutical companies that are making billions, quadrillions of dollars, and then I look at you guys who are really helping people live phenomenal lives, like that's the money you guys should be making because you're really increasing someone's quality of life, right? But for us to be able to do that at a big level, we need to have a handle on our finances, our revenue, and our profitability. So is it okay if we spend a little bit of time talking about finance and profitability? Great. Who's ever gone to their purse and realized, or wallet for those men that don't have purses, and opened it up and nothing's come out? Has anyone had that moment? Yes. Yeah, or there's no cards, or you use the cards and there's like decline, try this one, declined. Never again. I want to transform the revenue piece of your business and the profitability piece. I'm going to ask you to bear with me over these next few minutes as we talk money. I don't want to hear, but Clint, I'm a creative. But Clint, I'm like all in my right brain, I have no left brain. I don't want to hear any of these excuses. When I started my dance studio, all I could do was count $1 and $2 coins out of the envelopes, as you remember from the box that I made in woodwork. One of the highlights of my night after teaching at my studio was going home and throwing all of those envelopes on my bed and counting the money, all $53 of it. Yes, I'm going to talk about the numbers, what the numbers mean, how you interpretate them, and what you can do with them. So listen up. There's a couple of things that we've got to go through here. Sales is a term that we'll use. Sales is all the revenue that comes into your studio. Every single dollar or pound, I know we've got some UK friends here, or Australian dollar is a sale. Everything that comes into your studio. Now, cost of goods sold. This is the expense that relates directly to the sale. This one's important. I'm going to say it again. The cost of goods sold is the expense that correlates directly to the sale. What does that mean? Okay, you have group classes. Who does group dance classes here? Anyone? Yes, you do. You run, hopefully. You've got group dance classes going on. What do you need to pay for to make that group class happen? Just the class happen? Teachers, yes. So that is your cost of goods sold, is your teacher, right? The teacher makes the class run. You're going to say, but Clint, what about rent and electricity? We're not going to talk about that at the moment. That comes underneath in your operating expenses. The cost of goods sold is the thing that makes that revenue stream happen, right? The expense. We're going to go deeper into this. This is kind of top level. Gross profit, pretty simple. That's what you get when you have your sales minus your cost of goods sold is going to give you your gross profit. That shows you how profitable an income stream is within your studio before all of your other amazing expenses that you've got to pay as a studio owner. Then we get into taxes. We don't have to talk about taxes. Yes, we do, because you need to pay them. You need to pay your taxes. Depending on where you live, in New York at the moment, I feel I pay about 90% in taxes. But depending on where you live, your tax rate is going to be different. So make sure you check with your accountant, your tax attorney, to make sure that you are putting enough money away for tax. I said something very important there. What was the words? Putting away. Because you've got to pay your taxes. And I remember someone saying to me, oh, Clint, I don't want to earn more money because I don't want to pay more taxes. I was like, that is the worst advice you've ever been given. Oh, but Clint, I want to spend all my money so I don't have to pay taxes. That is the worst advice that you've been given. Should be really fun for you to get a big tax bill. Why? Because it means you've made more money. It means you are contributing. It's directly correlated with the amount of impact that you are making. Isn't that a different way to look at taxes? Rather than, I've got to pay tax. And it's like April and you're like, I have no money in my account to pay for my tax. Because you've got to put it away. Who's read Profit First in here? Yes. And some Inner Circle friends. Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First, did a pro class for our Inner Circle members. And he has, if you haven't read Profit First, I'm going to give you that resource. It's an amazing book. And it really simplifies accounting principles. He says, put away money for tax. And I agree with him. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Expenses, that's everything else. It's our rent. It's our insurances. It's the music licensing fees that we pay. Everything else. It's our admin teams. Everything else goes into your expenses. Distributions, what you take out. Then we have this lovely thing called net profit. So exciting. Some of you are like, I'm not excited. Get excited. Net profit is the money that you make. Has anyone been to the accountant and they said, good year, great year. You've made 20 grand in net profit. And you're like, it's not in my bank account. Where is this magic net profit? Where is this magic $20,000 that you say I have that is not in my account? Yeah, we really want to focus on our net profit and we want to focus on keeping it. Because that's the point of net profit, right? We want to keep those dollars. So that's kind of made easy, right? The financial terms made easy. Now let's actually put them into practice. But before we do that, you have multiple revenue streams inside of your studio. I'm going to run a session just on revenue streams later in our programming over our 3 days together. But for now, there's a couple of different ones. So who does birthday parties at their studio? Who does birthday parties? Amazing. Amazing, great. Love birthday parties. A couple of ways you can do these, and we'll talk about them later in our 3 days. Costumes. Who has costumes? Awesome. Well, sometimes awesome, sometimes not, right? Yes, costumes. Group lessons, recreational classes. I know, that is a terrible word. I hate the word recreational. But we all understand what it means, so I'm going to use it. Competitive, company, troupe, show group. I'm trying to think of all the words that we use across the world. Group classes. Merchandise, limited edition merchandise. Who does that? Okay, great. Private lessons. Yes. Recital or a concert. Who runs any of those? Yes. Who runs 18 of them? Some of us, right? A shop. Who does snacks or drinks, vending machines? Studio hire. Who hires out your studio in the white space that you might have inside of your business? Uniforms, we should have kind of foundation uniforms. Who has uniforms? Hands up. Okay. Workshops or camps. And a VIP program. Think of it more like Amazon Prime, right? They're paying a membership, could be called registration. You might have a couple of levels, right? Cool. We got that? Yeah, we're going to go more into that later. But I just wanted you to understand all the revenue streams. There's a couple more as well, while I go through the example. So let's look at your financial model inside of your business. So in every single revenue stream that you have in your studio, here are the things that I want you to be tracking. What are your monthly sales for each stream? Here's something I see time and time again, is studio owners have a P&L, profit and loss statement, and it says Sales and expenses. And that's it. And that's a problem because you don't know how well your business is performing. You don't know where you should be focusing your time and energy. You don't know what's costing you money. You really don't know what's making you money. And so you're in trouble. I want you to understand that. If you can't see every single revenue stream in your studio, in your profit and loss statement, you can't make great decisions on the growth of your business. If you can't see how profitable your group classes are for recreational compared to your competitive, compared to birthday parties, how do you know where to double down and where to put more work? And how do you know what to kill off? Because I'm sure there's a lot of you sitting in this audience today that should be killing off stuff in your business that is not profitable, that is taking too much time and energy away from the core business that you do extremely well. So we want to work that out. What are your monthly costs for each revenue stream is really important. What are those expenses? And what profit are you making from every revenue stream? Let's do an example. Let's do your group classes, for instance, right? You might make $10,000 a month in your group classes, your sales, right? What are your monthly costs? Well, let's say it's $3,000 a month for your teacher, your instructor expenses. So you're going to make $7,000. This is how your finances should be structured, not these numbers. Don't go, are these averages, Clint? I'm not charging that much. These are just examples. But I want the structure. Let's have some honesty time. Who currently has their P&L segmented by revenue streams? Hands up. Look around. 25? Am I pushing it there? Maybe 25%, maybe. Right? This is a great lesson for you to take away. Really, really great. So we want to make sure that we're doing this for every single revenue stream. So this is what it could look like. Merchandise, $1,250 for the month. Expenses, $644.60. You're left with $605.40 in your profit. This is basically what your P&L should look like, broken down into revenue streams. Because when you have this clarity and visibility of your numbers, you can make fantastic decisions. And that's what we're after, making really great decisions in our business. Okay, let's work out the next piece. So once you've got them segmented individually, you want to work out your whole sales, right? So what are your total monthly revenue? Add up all of your sales that you have. Then what is your total monthly expenses? What percentage of your monthly revenue does each revenue stream cater to? This is good. And I'm going to show you some pretty charts in a second to make it more interesting. And then what percentage of your monthly expenses are attributed to your income streams? Here are the charts. I'm going to read them to you. Now, before I get started, this is not a representation of any particular dance studio. This is not the averages that you should be aiming for. I just want to demonstrate to you the power of putting your data into something like this so you know exactly where your numbers are at. So monthly sales. You can see here, private lessons are bringing in 9.7% of sales. Competition sales, 16.9%. Recreational sales, 37.5%. That's a big chunk. Who here would say a big chunk of their money is coming from recreational group classes? Yeah, lots of you here. Recital was recital season, 31.8%. And then your merchandise is 4.1%. Look at the colors. These are the sales. This is the revenue that you are bringing in to your business. Now let's look at your expenses. Let's start with your competitive expenses. So you can see up the top, competitive sales, 16.9%. Competitive expenses, 29.4%. Now, I want to be very, very clear. You can make really great money from your competitive classes. Really great money. If we talk to Amanda and Lisette, Shannon, a whole bunch of our Inner Circle members who have who really, really have worked hard on their competitive and intensive streams and do very, very well from it. This is really, really important. I used to always bang on about competitive, doesn't make any money. And then we had Hillary. I know there's a whole bunch of our Inner Circle members here who do competitive. and they were like, Clint, you're wrong. We can do really, really well from this stream. And so it can be done, but I know a lot of you can probably identify with this. And it might be because you're charging the same rates, you're absorbing a lot of the additional costs, choreography, travel, you're not including your time that it takes to put these competitive teams together. And so if you haven't really dialed in the financial model for the competitive piece of your business, this is when it can look a little scary. But I want to let you know it doesn't have to be that way. If you love competitive, don't go, right, Clint told me it's not making me any money, I'm getting rid of it. No, because probably, I mean, it could be the case, but if you love it and are passionate about it, you just need to get to the right financial model. And we're going to talk about that as well. Recreational expenses, 21.7. Recital expenses, 30.9. Merchandise, 4.5. Private lessons, 14.0. Isn't this interesting? Wouldn't you think it would be interesting to go into your numbers and put a chart together like this that really shows you? Because this allows you to make really great decisions in your business. Because if you can see that something's making you a bit of money, but geez, a whole lot of your expenses is sitting there, you've either got to get rid of it or you've got to innovate on it and improve it. Getting rid of something isn't the first thing that you should do. We should try and get in there and find out the problem. But you cannot continue year after year after year having the same financial model that you know is not working. It's basically insanity. And we want to change that. And some of you, I was presenting last week and I was talking about the finances. And they're like, but Clint, they did the work in the room and they were like, oh my goodness, like I'm charging like 25% less than I should be. I can't just like turn up tomorrow and say, hey guys, I'm bumping up the price by 25%. No, something like that could take you 3 years. That's a transition because you want to keep your customers, but you also want to be honest with them and let them know that you've made some mistakes. And to correct those mistakes might take you a little while. So I want you to freak out if you're kind of looking at it and you're writing down your numbers and going, whoa, I'm totally off here. That's okay, because the thing is that you can get there over time. Here's my favorite. Your monthly profit. So think about those graphs that I just showed you, and then look at this one. Oh, hello there, recreational classes. Hello there, recital. Oh, company profit. 6.1. You saw how much space it took up in your expenses? So this is going to be different for every single person in the room. But there is so much power and clarity you will get from seeing this. Would you agree? Does this make sense? Okay, awesome. Who is committing to going home? Maybe not tonight, because we got a book party to go to. But who, you can have fun tonight, by the way. But who is committed to going home and doing this? Who can see the value in doing this process? Great. I want you to commit to this. Because here's the thing. If you don't know this, you're kind of flying blind with everything else. You're like, but Clint, I really need the Facebook ad. Do you think the Facebook ads are going to be as effective if you don't know these numbers? No, because you're not going to know what to focus on. You might be pushing something in your business that you think is really, really great, but it's not. So you should double down on the things that are working. That is always my advice. Less, but better. That's what I tell all of our Inner Circle members always is, you know what? You don't need to do all of this stuff. Let's just do the things that you are really, really great at and be the best at those. We don't need to be all things to all people. You're like, you've got a heartbeat, you're breathing, I'll take you, you're in. That's not the way that we want to run a business. We're actually not for everyone. Our studio is not for everybody. Has anyone ever had a problem parent? The room goes wild. Why? Probably because they weren't the right client for you. They weren't the right customer, but you let them in the door. We have to get clear on who we serve and what we do, and let's just be the best at that. If you're amazing at recreational classes, why wouldn't you just do that? I know some of you are smashing it with preschool. Some of you have like satellite preschool studios. Awesome. Why don't you just do that? Don't be afraid to serve a specific market with something that you are passionate about, but you do really, really well. Don't think because Susie's dance studio, Susie's very popular today. Susie's always very popular with me. Susie's dance studio does competitions and they're going to nationals and they're doing a Disney trip. I've got to do all of those things. No, you don't. Just stick with what you do and do it really, really well. Better than anybody else. Making sense? Great. All right, your expenses. So let's talk a little bit about expenses. So expenses, like I said, are everything else. Everything else that you need to pay for in your studio. Now, in your P&L, profit and loss statement that you use in QuickBooks or Xero, whatever accounting you're using, I want you to make sure that it doesn't just say expenses, $15,000. Again, not helpful, not helpful. Everything should be broken down. Marketing is a line item. Admin team is a line item. Wages is a line item. Insurances is a line item. Supplies, stationery, supplies is a line item, right? In the budget that we have, there are so many line items. You need to see that. Why is this important? Well, again, when you go through your P&L every month, if you just see expenses, that's not helpful. You're like, oh, expenses are high. I don't know what it is, though. But when you separate it out, you can go through and go, we do it. Every month in our team, Jessica and I go, oh, that number's high. What happened there? Oh, right, we did X, Y, Z. That makes sense. Or we find out that it's been categorized in the wrong area. Also really important. So these pieces of your financial reports are very important for you to understand. Distributions, that's money that you take out. Net profit, as I said, is what is kept, hopefully, in the bank. Or it's on your statement. Standards. Now, hold your horses on this one. I only put this slide in here because everyone always goes, Clint, I want the average. Everyone wants the average. Everyone. And I'm like, guys, you don't want to be average. The only thing that you want to compete against is yourself. Right? If you're like, but Clint said the average is 20% for that. You just need to compete against yourself. You just need to keep getting better. That's it. I don't worry about what's going on in the industry. I just want to keep bettering our results, right? You should be the same. But because this is a crowd favorite, I'm going to go through it. So, staff, 20 to 30% of your gross profit, right? 20 to 30% of your gross profit, no more than 40%, and 40% for me is super high, including your teacher's pay and your salary, right? Some of you say, Clint, I am not doing well with my finances. I ask two questions. How much do you pay in rent? How much do you pay in wages? And I can very quickly understand where the problem is. If I get those two numbers and I look at your pricing model, I can pretty much figure out the problem, right? Those three things right there are really, really powerful. Some of you are paying too much for teachers. Would anyone agree? Yeah, some of you are paying, but you're like, Clint, but there's no other option, right? That's where we get creative. And we'll talk about that a bit in the hiring. Some of you are paying a lot of money in rent, but you can't do anything about it. People are like, Clint, I'm paying so much money in rent. I'm like, okay, what are your options? Build, move, right? But you might not be at the point of moving, right? It might not be right for you to move. Might not be the right time. It might not be the right time for you to build and get a mortgage and build a place, right? So you're stuck with the rent. What does that mean you need to do? Look at your pricing model. All these things can be fixed with a pricing model. And then people say to me, but Clint, my parents can't afford it. They can't afford it. I'm like, well, move. No, I don't say that. That's not the advice I give them. When people say they can't afford it, it's because you haven't shown them the value. That's it. It's as simple as that. Oh, but Clint, I can't afford it. Oh, I can't afford that. Or I can't afford to bring little Susie. You haven't, anytime you get that objection, you haven't shown them the value. You probably banged on about your sprung floors and your beautiful mirrors and the amazing AC. That would definitely get me. I love AC. But you haven't shown them the value of how what you offer will transform their child's life. Can you put a price on that? Mums, dads in the audience, can you put a price on something that will transform your child's life? No. But you haven't conveyed the value, so then therefore their answer is, I can't afford it, it's too expensive. So that's a pretty easy fix because I know you all believe so deeply in what you do. Rec class sales need to be at least 3 times the amount of the money that you pay your teachers, right? So if you've got your recreational department, you want to make sure that you are not paying your teachers too much money for those classes. And that's why the class capacity forecast, which I'm going to talk about today, is really valuable. Marketing, guys, you need a marketing budget. Full stop. Who has a marketing budget? Who does not have a marketing budget? Most of us don't. And if you just put up your hand, ask yourself, do you ever think, I wish I had more students? There's your answer, have a marketing budget. And then you need to know what to do with it. Your marketing budget is going to be between 10 to 20% depending on where you are in the growth of your studio. Let me explain. If you're in a hyper growth period, so if you say, Clint, I've got 200 students, I want to get to 300 in the next 6 months. I'm like, cool, you're going to need to spend some money on marketing, right? So you may be higher, that 15% range potentially in your marketing. If you say to me, Clint, I want to double my students in the next 12 months, you might be more at the 20% mark. If you're like, Clint, thank you, I did what you said, and I have double my amount of students. I have 400 students now, but now my operations is like a little bit of a mess. And I need more people because I haven't had a day off in a year. And I'm going to say to you, now we need to build your team. And so your profitability is going to get eaten up in the team, but only short term. What did I say before? As CEOs of our studio, we need to have, I'll tell you, long-term thinking. We need to have long-term thinking. So we're going to invest in our team members so that we can service the customers that we've sold in, that we're meant to be delivering an amazing service to, that will eat into our profitability. Then you might have a year of increasing your profitability, which is where you'll be focusing laser sharp on your expenses, on your team's efficiency, on their productivity, and on your revenue streams. Building the things that have profit already, doubling down on those, and getting rid of the things that aren't delivering you a good return. Make sense? Yes. Cool. Net profits, at least 10%. 10% for me is break even. Really, truly. If you're at a 10% profit margin in your studio, you're at a break even point. Love you to be at 15. 20 to 25 is probably if you are not in growth mode, because there's a thing called there's too much profit. Can you imagine? There is. If you have more than, let's say 30, but I'd kind of be 25 to 30% profit, and you want to grow your business, you need to be investing that money back into the growth of the studio because you will grow faster, right? It's great having money. Make sure you've got your savings. Make sure you're doing all the smart investments with your money. But if you have leftover profit, put it back into the business in a smart way. Yeah? Because there's good ways to use the money and there's like bad, inefficient ways to use the money. So you want to make sure you've got that. Save for your future, easy, 10%. 10%. Every time money comes into your bank account, 10% disappears. Do it. It's really fun. Not at the time, but it's fun later as the money builds. Cash. 2 to 3 months of operating expenses in the bank, at least 2 to 3 months. I'm comfortable with a year. Everyone kind of has different parameters of what they're happy to push to. This is for an at least for me. Who knows what could happen? Unfortunately, I had a friend last year. We were in a mastermind together, and he went blind for a month. The doctors have no idea what happened to him, Richard. Great guy. But he went blind for a month. And then one day woke up and he could see again. The strangest thing. But he presented at our mastermind group about it and what he did and the things he already had. He was so grateful he had in place in his business so that it could continue running. And so, touch wood, that happens to no one in this room. But things happen in life and we've really, really got to be prepared. So that's why I like to have those savings put away. Class capacity. class capacity. Who has done this before? Who's like, Clint, I live it. I dream about class capacity because you tell me about it all the time, right? Class capacity is one of my favorite spreadsheets I ever created. And I actually hate spreadsheets. But I work in them because they are very, very powerful and useful. So your class capacity is a very, very easy formula that is going to get you excited, it's going to make you cry, and it's going to make you feel all of the emotions in the middle, right? You will feel all emotions when you go through this exercise. So what it looks at is how full are your classes? How much money are you making from your current classes? Most importantly, how much more money could you be making in your classes if you just filled them up? And this shows you every single class. We want to look at every single class. So what do we look at? On average, what is your class capacity percentage for your company classes? What is your class percentage for your recreational classes? And we put them into a cool spreadsheet that looks, and you're like, whoa, it's nice and big, and I'm going to walk you through it. So the first thing that you do in this sheet is you put the name of the class. So I've got an example here, Level 2 Jazz. Level 2 Jazz. Then, how many students do you have in that class? In this example, we have 15. They're each paying $15 for their class. The current income is $225 for those 15 people paying $15. Your expenses, what would your expense be? What would that be? Teachers, good, listening. Teachers, $80. Your current profit, right, your gross profit is $145. Cool, easy. Let's look at the fun stuff. What are the max amount of students you could take in that class? In this example, I've done 20. Guys, some of you are not taking enough students in your classes. And when people say, but we like to keep it small, I'm like, and you'll just stay broke. You can keep your classes small if you charge a premium. Think about the gym. Who's gone to the gym? Anyone gone to the gym? Okay, I'm sure more of you have. Hopefully. When we go to the gym, we have a couple of options. We can do a group fitness class. They cram 50 people in there. You're all, doing, what's this called? I don't know, body attack. Do you guys have body attack? You're like, what is body attack? I used to do it back in the day. Or a step class? No one does step anymore, right? That was so good. Steps coming back. Who said that? Oh, made my day. Thank you. Right, so we have group classes where we can fit 50 people into the group class. We then have small group classes where there's like 4 or 5 of us that can train together with our buddies. We pay more money for that. Then we have one-on-one personal training, and that's like $150 an hour in New York anyway. It's expensive. Think of your studio the same way. Private lessons, most of you are not charging enough money for private lessons. That's why you're not making any money in your private lessons. Private lessons. You then have this small group thing. Some of you are charging, let's say your preschool classes, and you're like, but Clint, I can only have 6 people in my preschool class because, they're little. And I'm always like, well, how much do you charge? Oh, the same as the big group classes. Guys, this should be a premium. One of my friends in Australia had 3 locations. She just ran preschool classes. She was charging $28 a preschool class for 45 minutes. She took 12 people. That was a really good business model. She was making a lot of money. Yeah? But she couldn't just have 6 people in a class for $10. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Right? And so that's why up here, your max students, I want you to think. Because I'm always like, oh, just add one more. Make it 21. Fill it. Let's make it 22. If you have a great teacher, and this people are like, oh, but Clint, my teacher can't handle it. I'm often saying, you got the wrong teacher. The teacher needs to be able to control a room. I remember I ran 2 grades, grade 1 and grade 2. We had grades back in Australia, jazz. And I would run 2 grades, 35 kids in the class. We had a big space. This is when I taught at one of the studios in Sydney. And I was doing their jazz technique. 2 grades, 35 people with me. And occasionally, every second week, I'd have an assistant. You just need to have really great teachers. Then you can pay those teachers that can do that more money because you're making a lot more money, right? So it's all about the people that you've got and the financial model that you have in place. So maximum income can then be 300. Maximum expenses. When would your expenses go up in a group class setting? Assistants, yeah. So when you need an assistant teacher, that price would go up. In this instance, it's only 5 more kids, no assistant needed. Current class capacity is 75. The difference in income is an extra $75 a week. So if you got, in this example, 5 more students, you'd make an additional 75. Now, can you imagine if you had this spreadsheet and you listed out every single class that you had and all of the additional money that you could be making if your classes were full? Would you think that would get you excited? Yes, because we've seen this where it's like $5,000 a week, $10,000 a week, $2,000 a week. Wouldn't that make a difference if you just focused on filling your classes instead of the 100 other projects that you're working on that probably isn't making you any money? Like I said, less but better. Focus on your skill and double down on what really works. So I'm going to take a couple of questions. You're like, who are these people? These are amazing people that I'm going to be introducing you to in a couple of minutes, and I'm excited for them to share their stories. But before we get started, I want to take some of your questions. So I'm going to walk over here to get a little groovy tool. It's called a catchbox. I throw it at you. Carefully, carefully. It's not day 3 yet. And then you get to talk into the top of it. It's a microphone. Isn't it amazing? And it's branded. What a cool tool. Okay, so who has a question? Who has a question? Bonnie, can you catch the catchbox?
Oh, wow. Who knew? I might have to take this with me. Just kidding. Okay, so on the 11-step enrollment process,
Yes.
which I already introduced, which is awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
But you did put a few different ideas out there today.
Tell you.
My ahas. So if you are doing this personalized email, how do you automate?
The top part.
Yeah, how do you automate
You
that?
don't.
You don't. You can't. So can
That was a very easy question. Thank you.
So, okay, then I'll ask you another one. So on the template, the script,
Yes.
I like to offer them full enrollment before downselling to a trial class enrollment. Can you say something about that?
Right. So you tell me that again.
So I will offer them, I won't mention the trial class if they don't
Okay.
mention it until I've said, okay, you can enroll for the semester.
On the phone, you're enrolling them for the
Yes,
semester.
so they'll say, I'm interested in
sure.
hip hop. I'm like, okay,
Great.
18 weeks, $297. Or do you want to upgrade to a membership?
Sure.
Then if they say, oh, I don't know,
Yeah.
then I say, oh, do you want to just try a class?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, so
I love that.
That's a good script.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, if it's for a season and you can get them in from a phone call without them experiencing you, sell the season on the phone. A lot of people, though, have trouble selling a big commitment like that up front without a try before you buy. So I would definitely go down that route if that works for you, and then you can downsell them into a trial if they don't want to take that commitment.
Okay.
Totally great idea.
Okay.
Okay. Oh dear. I feel like I felt like the catchbox is a really great idea until I actually have to throw it that far. I mean, we do have insurance, so it's okay. Yes.
Thank you.
We can then just throw it around between each other.
I'm from Long Island, where there's a studio on it's nail salons, how common they are. And
Yeah.
how do you, I know that you said when you're calculating the appropriate price for what you should be charging per class, it takes about 3 years to actually climb that transition.
If you're super under where you should be, 100%. And I think it's tomorrow or Sunday, I'm going to walk through the different financial structures. So tiered model versus discounted model versus flat fee structure. So I'm going to walk you through those.
Is there anything, I mean, if it's in the module for tomorrow, maybe I'm asking it prematurely.
That's fine,
But
yeah.
how do you then, well, then I'll go literally across the street where I could throw a rock to where it's way cheaper. How
Yeah,
do you battle that
haven't-
competition in price?
You haven't conveyed the value.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I don't care how much anyone else is. No one's me.
Okay.
And you have to, like if you're doing, come for jazz, it's fun, get creative. And then this studio's, come for jazz, it's fun, it's creative. You have a branding issue. I always want to go back to brand. We are in the world now where everyone is price driven, and you probably agree, people are looking for a great bargain, but we still go back to the brands we know, like, and trust. So as a studio, you need to be building a brand. So when they see you, they're not only coming to you as another dance studio, they're coming to you, what's your studio name?
MB Dancers.
MB Dancers. Mm-hmm. They're coming because MB Dancers, like we got to go to MB Dancers. They've built a brand. Think of any brand that you love. Maybe it's Apple. Maybe it's Nike. Maybe it's Adidas here. We say Adidas. You guys say Adidas? I don't know. We say something completely wrong. I don't know what it is. And so we have these brands. Peloton is another brand that's like up and coming, right? SoulCycle, these fitness brands, they are brands. You guys need to be in the business of building a brand, because then that conversation, price, oh yeah, $38 for a cycle class for 45 minutes? Sure. And you charge me $3 for shoes? Sure. And $2 for a bottle of water? Sure. I mean, hello, that's SoulCycle, right? We need to build a brand first, because if we don't build a brand, we are competing with everybody else, every other dance studio. Once you've done the branding piece, then it's about building the value. So when you're having the conversation, when you're going through the enrollment process, how are you building the value? How are you communicating to them? What you do changes the lives. And then we'll get to the money piece tomorrow. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Awesome.
Definitely, thank you.
Who's got a question? Who wants to catch the catch box? We'll go maybe here and here. Have a couple of more minutes. Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you too again. I was wondering how transparent we should be with our numbers that you just presented with our team.
Oh, such a good question. Such a good question. As transparent as you want to be, I know that's not the helpful answer. Let me dive into it. I think it's important that your team does have transparency on the core numbers in your business. You might not want to share with them how profitable you are. If you're doing a profit sharing system in your studio, where let's say your 5% of your profit gets distributed between your team members, share the profit, because that's a really important number for them, right? So I would be sharing a couple of key numbers. I would be sharing every single week, it's a weekly report that goes out, where you should talk about total students enrolled, total places filled, class capacity, how full you are, where you're at, amount of new students that enrolled in the studio the previous week. You can do like inquired, trialed, enrolled, those three numbers I gave you before, and your churn rate, your retention is really, really important. So they're kind of like 5 core numbers I would be sharing with them week on week that is moving to a goal that you have for them, right? So when you have goals in place, we're going to talk a lot about, I've got a great presentation, I hope it's great, about team and leadership this weekend, and we're going to talk about a lot of these things. But you need to set goals, KPIs, key performance indicators in place with each of your team members. You need to have collective goals for your team as well, so everyone's working towards the same goals as well, everyone's on the same page. And then you need to share the numbers that make those goals happen. Because there's nothing saying, okay guys, we've got a goal, we want to get to 500 students, and they don't get an update every week on how many students you've got, right? It's crazy. We need to be telling them, we need to be getting them excited, we need them bought into that goal, because people often say, look, Clint, my team's lazy, like, they don't do their job, blah, blah, blah. And when we get into the communication piece, I'm like, your team don't know what's going on. How can you get excited about not knowing what's going on, right? So the communication piece is key. I would say to you, share the numbers you feel comfortable with. Yeah, like with us, we're pretty open and honest, but there's certain team members that get access to certain numbers depending on their role. Because if they don't have access to those numbers, they can't do their role. Does that help? Yeah. Okay, 2 more questions. I'm going to go maybe on this side. Sorry, I feel so bad when I see all these hands.
I don't know.
Can we throw it over here?
Can I just...
Okay, we're going to do like a... Hey, friend.
Hi, Danielle from
I know who
Bloomsburg.
you are.
Yes.
Oh, but everyone else. This is Danielle.
I'm Danielle from Bloomsburg School of Dance. I'm in a rural area in Pennsylvania. You talked about our profit should be a certain percentage of the gross profit. You kept using the word gross profit. Earlier, your gross profit is actually the gross minus the cost of teachers.
No, so the cost of teachers should go in your cost of goods sold.
Okay.
So you have your sale, let's say your recreational stream, that's your
Okay.
sales. Then your cost of goods sold
Right.
should be your teachers.
Correct.
And then your admin staff, everyone else is in your expenses.
And then it's gross profit,
So you get your top gross profit line. So you get gross profit.
which I call gross revenue.
Okay, that's fine. Gross
Okay.
revenue, sales minus direct expenses gives you your gross profit.
Okay.
Then your net profit is underneath all of those other things.
Right. So the marketing budget is actually based on gross profit, not with the rent and the utilities and the other
Correct.
expenses.
Correct.
Okay. So
for that income stream.
take out the COG
Yeah.
and then work from that number for everything else you had on that
Correct.
one screen.
Yeah.
Okay. That
Good
was
clarifying question.
yes.
Oh, I said one more. I think, ready? We'll see how this goes. Not overly well, but not horrible. Okay, last question.
Well, it's not a question. It's a success. Is that okay?
Oh,
Based on the goal
please.
thing that you were just talking about over there.
Yeah.
So our studio, we're in Ohio, and we're excited. It's our first year, and our owner, Whitney, she gave us a goal. She invited us to come to this, and she gave us a goal. And if we met that goal for enrollment before we left, she would buy us tickets to a Broadway show. And we met that goal, and so we get to see Hamilton tonight. We're really excited.
Oh, Whitney. Whitney's one of our Inner Circle members. I love the team. Thank you so much for coming. Isn't that great? And she's like busting out of her seat. She's so excited because, Whitney, as the CEO of the studio, has enrolled her team into a goal and they're working towards it together. And you know what? There's nothing better than working on a goal together. It's very boring working on a goal on your own. 100 students, it's not overly fun. But when you do it with your team, and that's the result, isn't that amazing? Congratulations, Whitney and team. So excited.
We hope you enjoyed this week's financial special. Don't forget to download your free studio revenue report at dsoa.com/studio-revenue today.